The moment happened in broad daylight, under a sky so ordinary that no one would have expected a life to crack open beneath it. Armin Hale was standing outside a small neighborhood clinic, the sun reflecting off the glass doors, when a little girl with dust on her shoes and courage too big for her body tugged gently at his sleeve. She looked up at him with eyes that carried a question older than her age, and she said something that stopped his breath mid-heartbeat. She told him hello, called him sir, and explained that her mother had a tattoo exactly like his. In that instant, the noise of the street dissolved, the warmth of the day faded, and the past Armin had buried for years rose up, demanding to be seen. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Shadowverse if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that can happen in ordinary daylight. Armin had been a single father for nearly 8 years, though the word single never felt accurate enough to describe the loneliness that clung to him like a shadow. His days began early, always with the same routine, the same sun spilling through the kitchen window as he packed lunches, ironed school uniforms, and tried to convince himself that stability could replace the ache of loss. His son, Kieran, was the reason Armin woke up every morning with purpose, yet even in the brightest hours of the day, there was a hollow space in his chest that no schedule could fill. He worked as a transit engineer, spending long daylight hours repairing systems that moved thousands of people forward, while his own life felt permanently paused. The tattoo on Armin's forearm was something most people never noticed. It was small, faded now, a simple constellation pattern inked near his wrist. To strangers, it looked meaningless, almost accidental. To Armin, it was a promise made under a summer sun years ago, back when hope felt endless and the future felt kind. The tattoo marked a love that once existed in daylight and laughter, a love that had vanished abruptly, leaving behind questions with no answers. When Mira Calder disappeared, everyone assumed she had chosen to leave. No note, no explanation, just absence. The world kept moving in the sun, and Armin learned to move with it, even though part of him remained frozen in that last bright memory. The little girl's name was Naira, though Armin would not learn it until later. In that first moment, all he saw was her seriousness, the way she studied his arm as if it held a map. Children often said strange things, he reminded himself. Still, his pulse raced as she pointed out the tattoo, describing it with surprising accuracy, down to the uneven star that Mira herself had insisted on adding because perfection felt dishonest. Armin felt the day tilt. He had not spoken Myra's name aloud in years, yet it echoed inside him as clearly as if she were standing in front of him. Naira's presence did something to Armin that no therapy session or late-night reflection ever had. It cracked open a door he had sealed shut. Over the following days, he found himself replaying that brief encounter in the middle of his daylight routines, while fixing tracks, while waiting at traffic lights, while watching Kieran laugh on the playground. The world around him stayed bright and busy, but inside, questions multiplied. How could a stranger's child carry a mark so intimately tied to his past? How could something he believed lost resurface in the most innocent form imaginable? Armin's struggle was not just about uncovering the truth. It was about fear. Fear that hope would betray him again. He had spent years teaching himself to accept the version of life that remained, the version where he was enough for his son and no more. Hope was dangerous, especially in daylight, when everything seemed possible and disappointment felt sharper. Yet every time he glanced at the tattoo, the memory of Naira's steady gaze returned, and with it a pull he could not ignore. The clinic where they met sat near a public library, a place Naira visited often while her mother worked nearby. Through quiet observation and gentle inquiries, Armin learned small details that stitched together a larger picture. Naira lived with her mother, a woman who avoided attention, who kept her past carefully folded away. This woman worked during the day, volunteered occasionally, and carried a constellation tattoo hidden beneath a watchband. Each fact tightened the knot in Armin's chest. The days grew heavier with anticipation, yet brighter with possibility. Armin's internal conflict reached its peak during a sun-washed afternoon when he stood at the edge of a playground, watching children run freely under the open sky. He realized how much of his life had been defined by endurance rather than joy. Kieran deserved more than survival. He deserved truth, even if it hurt. Armin deserved it too. The choice was no longer whether to seek answers, but whether he was brave enough to face whatever daylight revealed. When the truth finally unfolded, it did so quietly, without drama, under the honest clarity of the afternoon sun. Mira Calder had not abandoned her life out of indifference. She had disappeared to protect it. A medical diagnosis, fear of becoming a burden, and a belief that Armin and their unborn child would be better without her had driven her into silence. She rebuilt herself slowly, privately, carrying regret like a second skin. Naira was the living proof of both her fear and her hope. The tattoo remained because some promises refused to fade, no matter how much time passes in the light. Reunion did not arrive as a cinematic explosion, but as a fragile, trembling moment filled with sunlight and uncertainty. Armin learned that healing was not instantaneous. It was a series of small, deliberate steps taken in the open, where shadows had nowhere to hide. Trust had to be rebuilt. Pain had to be acknowledged. Kieran had to be introduced to a truth that would reshape his understanding of family. Through it all, the day kept moving, reminding them that life does not pause for healing, but it does make room for it. As weeks turned into months, Armin noticed subtle changes. The weight in his chest lifted incrementally. Laughter returned to his home, not forced, but natural. Kieran gained a sister in Naira, and Naira gained a brother she had never known she was missing. Mira faced her past without flinching, learning that love was not a weakness, and that daylight could be gentle as well as harsh. Together, they learned that second chances rarely look perfect, but they feel real. The story of that single sentence spoken by a little girl spread quietly through Armin's life, reshaping it from the inside out. It reminded him that the universe does not always announce its miracles with thunder. Sometimes it whispers them through children, through symbols inked on skin, through ordinary afternoons that become unforgettable. The greatest challenge Armin faced was not the pain of the past, but the courage to let the present change him. If this story has reached something tender inside you, if it has reminded you of hope found in unexpected daylight moments, please take a second now to like, comment, and share this video so more hearts can feel it too. Before the ending, a small special request from us to you. Comment the word, second chance, below if you believe that the past does not get the final say. In the end, Armin often thought back to that first moment outside the clinic. The sun overhead, the world rushing by, and a little girl brave enough to speak the truth she carried. Life did not become perfect, but it became honest, and in that honesty, it became whole. Some stories begin in darkness, but the ones that last are written in daylight, where healing can be seen, felt, and shared.